The pond is holding the flashboard, the water's going over the flashboards, but they're holding. We did take out, last week we had taken out 2 more blocks, so the pressure isn't that bad. Even though the water's high. You saw all the crap in the pond and the stuff that had accumulated on the dock. I've talked to Brooke and she's gonna work with Dan Fontes. A lot of that white stuff is not from upstream, it's from when they dumped the stuff in the drainage ditch, when they took the ice out. So it is white acrylic paint and tape and stuff like that from the ice. That's where all the white stuff is coming from.
Gotcha.
For the
So
record, we're talking about the pond.
the pond, Corcoran Pond, and the flooding stuff that's been happening. So we'll go over that with Dan Fontes and in the past it has happened before, and the water just naturally, it's water soluble paint, so
Right.
usually it just leaves. So we'll see how it goes here, but there's more than just the paint stuff on the dock. So we've got some cleanup work once the water recedes, so we'll take care of that.
Okay, and also for the record, we opened the meeting earlier in a non-public session, so we are now in our special select board meeting. The quorum is present. Speaking of cleanup, just before we go to the noise warrant, so what happened this weekend again?
Yeah, I've got the last 3 Mondays have been really bad down here. We're not having any money left in the box. Well,
No.
there, but
Well,
people just leaving.
There was a ton of.
I've got 3. I took a photo each of the last 3 Mondays and it's been out of control. So I did talk to Jen. She said that this is the time of year when people
Sure.
are cleaning
Yeah.
stuff out, but it's just really been bad. So I mentioned to Rich earlier this morning that I would propose that we put the fence up the way that we're planning to do it, the way we discussed with enclosing the new area.
Yeah.
And then we see if I can talk through the community meetings or put something up on the website and just ask people to, be cleaner down there and make sure they're locking the dumpsters and
And perhaps
everything
if not,
else.
Perhaps
And-
if not, we need to open later in the morning.
Well, we open later in the morning, or we look at going back to the fence company, get some additional
That's what I
fencing.
mean, like.
And-
fencing
And
in.
close the full
Close it.
area.
Yeah,
I mean, as I've told you before, I really don't want to do that if we can help it, but it's really
Probably
getting
what'll
out of
happen is
control.
you'll have the people dumping the mattresses and stuff outside
Well,
the fence.
We talked about that, and before we would do that, we would make sure that we have cameras set up so that we
Move them,
can,
the ones that we have. move
Yeah.
them.
really focus them.
and focus them
Little sign,
and
smile.
that's right. And change all the signage and down there because we're gonna need it up above anyway. So we can repurpose a lot of that signage. But I agree with you, Bob. That's why I've been recommending that we not enclose it, because I think if we don't do a good job of getting the word out and really explaining to people how it's gonna work, it's gonna be an even bigger mess.
Yeah.
So, but it's just, I mean, I've not seen it down there
Okay.
like this.
Like whole living rooms down
Yeah,
there,
the whole living rooms, baby
Furniture.
carriages, furniture.
everything.
Well,
Somebody
it's
got
probably all
theirs.
weekend people, I'm guessing.
There may be, but there looks like even like mattresses
Mhm.
are just old
Tires.
tires.
Lots of tires.
I think it's coming from outside the valley into town. Because it just is not stuff you would expect that people would have in their vacation condo. Maybe,
Is Jen looking
guess.
for more hours?
no.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, and then she wants to go full time, right?
Well,
We
yeah,
have her
I mean,
scheduled
going
to go
full-time
full-time.
with her, that's fine. But are you thinking putting her there on the weekends?
Yeah, maybe
Sunday
in the morning,
afternoons.
one of,
Yeah.
maybe just in the morning, on Saturdays and Sundays, or one of those days, just to
Yeah.
try to put a stop to it.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at that. So. It's just, it's a real indicator to me of what we're gonna face when we go up there. Just,
Well, at least I think when we go up there, we're gonna eliminate this out of town people.
yeah, I hope so,
Exactly.
I hope so.
Well, fencing it down here does acclimate people too.
Yes.
So we deal with the issue
I mean, I'm,
now
more-
as opposed to the winter. That is the other side.
Yes.
I'm not arguing for it, but it's a
well,
consideration.
we're gonna,
We have to move
we're
in that direction.
definitely, if we don't get this out to bid, or if when we bid this. They can't guarantee us that it'll be ready, we're definitely gonna have to figure out the fencing.
Sure.
But just to
Yeah.
comply with
Just to
in
comply
some,
with
in
the
some manner
AFC.
with the AOC. Right,
Yeah.
even though the location won't be
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
Anyway, so,
You got someplace to go
I
today?
got a dog in the car, so.
Oh, you got a dog in the car.
So the-
All right.
so
Yeah.
I just put in the exact, as I had recommended to you, the exact warrant that we had. In there, the only difference is that I noted that it was the amended. Section 2 from March 15th, 2023. But all of the wording is exactly what we had before.
The only thing I found confusing is not having Sundays noted in the initial bit, because I know we weren't talking about federal holidays, but. For people just reading it, they'd see that Sundays are added back in the italicized part of it. But, by amending the definition of which federal holidays are affected by this ordinance. Don't we need to say by which federal holidays and Sundays are affected by this ordinance?
Which I'm not
Well,
sure what your
because-
concern is.
Well, because we struck Sundays from the noise ordinance. As per town meeting.
On March 15th.
Yeah,
Right,
Yes.
so we're.
Adding it back
see, we'll
in.
Add it back in.
right.
So
Okay,
do we need to put that in the Article 1 descriptor bit of it?
I was
mean, it's in the
thinking what
italicized.
will be helpful. And it's one of the notes I was referring to earlier. If we actually passed out, this is the current.
yeah, we
noise
will do that.
Ordinance.
Mhm.
And then when we talk about it. We can point out, this is the language you want to change. This is what it looks like now. This is the language you want to change.
Mhm.
And that will helpfully also spur a conversation of what we're talking about.
Mhm.
There are 5 paragraphs of that noise ordinance, and we're only talking about the first 2 paragraphs dealing with construction noise. Unreasonable noise on certain days and hours.
Mhm.
So I think if people have something with that help, with your concern, if people have the actual
Well, yeah, I just think.
ordinance in front of them.
Well, yeah, it's just that we had taken Sundays out
Right,
as directed and. It's put back in where it's italicized, but we
right.
don't refer to Sundays up here as we're referring to the federal holidays.
Of which federal holidays and
And
Sundays
Sundays.
are affected by
Right.
this.
Yeah, no, that would
Okay.
make the point
Yeah.
solid.
Exactly.
They'll have the current and they'll have and that'll make the warrant stand on its own too,
Mhm.
without needing any
So
kind
understand
of,
it.
right, I
Mhm.
see what you're saying.
Yeah.
And we're talking to Jim potentially still, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna put WVES Gymnasium on the 31st day of May 2023 at 6 p.m. Yeah, is that right?
Do we want to go anywhere near some of the other complaints we got when this whole issue came
The
up?
rock
involved?
breaking the rock.
Well,
Well,
I think that would be covered
Mhm.
by this. It's the non-construction
Will be covered
activity.
these days.
On
It
these
wouldn't be
days.
covered on Saturdays, which is what.
That's correct. Well, yes, you're right. That's correct. I was thinking also if people complained about the lawn, the leaf blowers, the non-construction commercial activity.
Well, I want to talk about that. He's gonna go make you copies, but that's already in there. So the noise the way that it's worded, it would already be covered for leaf blowers
But
and
on Saturdays? Because that was. the
Well, see that
question.
it's in a different
Oh.
part.
it's
See,
in a
that's where
different
Oh, okay.
section, but it is.
That's
covered.
Saturdays and Sundays
yeah.
are just that construction.
It-
But actually, I read it with an eye toward that, and I
Yeah.
didn't get that impression.
Okay,
That's my one. Do we want, in other words, do we want to take an opportunity to fix this and leave it be forever, hopefully,
Forever.
you know, in terms of these other things? And if we do that, do we make an exception for, I'm talking about commercial
Mhm.
lawn blowers or commercial landscaping activities?
Yeah.
If your next door neighbor on a Sunday morning wants to come out and, you know, do the leaf blowing on his lawn, I mean, that's
Hi.
between you and
Hello.
him, right? I mean, to my way of thinking, you go to Joe's, hey, Joe, do you have to do that on
Joe's-
Sundays?
Joe's like, yeah.
Or you just put up with it for an hour?
You have a minute
In
to come
Texas, you
down
get
to the
shot.
downstairs meeting room and
Well, yeah,
talk about the
yeah.
noise
But
ordinance.
that one incident with that guy,
Well, it's like,
oh, it's,
He joined us.
it's been like 5 or
Yeah, I
6
think
incidents
he's
in the
out.
last week
He
with
might
that
be
many
able to
killed.
inspection.
yeah, I heard the one about
Okay,
the guy.
one was a little kid basketball rolled across the street into some guy's yard, and another one, 2 girls drove up into a the wrong
The wrong
driveway.
guy, that's right, I
They
heard
went to
about
turn
that.
around, the guy shot her with a shotgun.
Yeah,
Crazy.
Yes,
Insane.
it is.
Anyway,
There's a lot of tension out
So-
there in the country now. All right.
so there is something in there that would preclude
Well,
somebody from using a rock crusher on Saturday?
Well, I think the rock crusher would fall under this construction.
I don't think it would preclude it.
It
though.
wouldn't preclude it, no,
Someone could complain,
yes,
but that it was unreasonable noise.
Even on a Saturday?
They could complain, but that'd be a really tough call
yeah.
because it is when a
That's why
construction
it's
is allowed.
to come down here, have a seat,
All right.
because you gotta explain what.
Explain what?
Yeah, it'd be good to have.
What is
that
unreasonable noise and what actions you can and can't take,
age old question.
the age old question of.
It's up to you guys. I mean, it's not to you guys, it's up to the residents, like what you deem is not okay, you deem okay, and you is different, and. It's not a standard catch-all, and that's the problem with it, is that, like. John Montero every day at 7:50 complaining about the noise is.
He had to put a muffler on his cars.
Well, no, here's the thing though, is it's like, what John determines as like. No.
As an example, not to pick on John, but
Is when Barry was talking the other day.
Right.
Completely different, you know what I
right, when
mean?
Barry mentioned the rock
So
crusher.
that's the hard part is what.
Right.
Wendy then may think is too much, or Mark may is,
Right.
but if people don't call.
Yeah.
We can't do anything.
So what about Saturday? If they're doing rock crushing on Saturday?
Nobody's gonna call us. Because they're allowed to do it on Saturday, so you have that time frame, which it's
So
not.
we got,
considered.
there's no way to prevent that.
No.
Unless when we. meet-
Unless you just simply say,
Unless we
can't have
meet-
anything on Saturday.
when we meet
Right.
with James next week, this week, we just say, hey, the town doesn't want you doing rock
Rock
crushing
crushing,
on-
Right.
on Saturdays.
Right. But that's the difference is like, and I do understand where everybody's coming from. Like, if I look at John's absolutely right, but it's hard to deal with it. Barry's absolutely right when he was talking about the beeping. And then even you, when I had a conversation with you the other day about the music being maybe inappropriate. If they're not calling us, we can't be the determination of what's inappropriate, what's too loud, what's not, you know what I mean? So that's the hard part for us is. They don't consider us to be a natural person. So when we're even driving around in the morning, at the 7:50 or at the 7:40. We still can't be the determining factor on if it's too loud or not,
Right.
unless somebody complains, because we're not considered that average person.
Even on, with regard to construct, if they start early,
If they,
someone has to-
we could just simply. Because there's nothing saying they can't start early, it's.
it's the unreasonable noise.
Yes.
aspect
So for
of it.
us, we
Right.
can't drive around at 7:40 and see you working on your house and stop you and say you can't do that because we're not considered that average person.
Right.
But if Wendy says, hey, Rich is out there working on his house at 7:40, then yes, we're gonna go over there and tell you. And how we work it so people know is the first one's a warning. It's always a warning because a lot of people don't know. So our first thing would be, Wendy, please stop. This is your warning. If we have to come back, here's your fine. We do that pretty much for everybody. We don't normally come back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
right.
So, but what each individual determines as, which is unreasonable, is where the sticking point is. Does that make sense?
No, it's always made sense. It's
So
trying to put it
the
into
first two paragraphs are
construction.
specifically for construction.
construction.
Correct, yes.
And then when it says noise disturbance, again, that is somebody calling you
Correct.
and complaining that it's
Yes.
too noisy.
Yep.
So,
Well, even 1 and 2 are, and that's where I think we're getting
well,
confused.
no, yes, but this was a question about other noise.
Yep.
Right?
Yes,
So any of this type of stuff, which would include leaf blowers
Yeah.
and stuff like that, right?
Where are we? Which one are you in?
Paragraph 3.
3.
So anything other that is audible
Mhm.
further than 50 feet from a building,
Okay.
right?
And the issue I have with that is that all the examples, that to me was the music subparagraph.
Okay,
Paragraph B was the voice subparagraph.
okay,
Paragraph C was the animal noise
Yeah.
subparagraph. And paragraph D was the engine noise subparagraph.
yep.
So I didn't see where lawn blower
it's not really in there.
fits there.
No.
And 4 and 5 deal with motor vehicle.
Yes, and that's where we're not a natural person. That's where we can.
You can.
Yes,
you
if
are
somebody's driving
via
by, we
state-
can
a
automatically,
state law,
yes, address it.
right?
Well,
You
but
see
a-
what I'm saying?
but a motor vehicle is in paragraph 5. I would say that 3D would be the leaf blower, because that's an internal combustion engine.
We could
Or a
call it, yeah.
lawnmower or something
Yeah.
like that. Because,
Okay,
right,
I get
and then
that.
paragraph 5 is specifically
To vehicles,
for
motor
motor
vehicles.
vehicles. And that there's a separate state law on,
And then, well, it
operating
further
motor vehicles,
defines
right?
and the sub paragraphs of the sub paragraphs.
Well, there is, but there, so all it does, so what the state law says is that it goes back to that natural person of reasonable
Right, right.
sensibilities. That's where we qualify when it comes to a vehicle, noise emanating from a vehicle. That's where we're considered a natural person
Okay.
or reasonable person. Otherwise, we're not considered
I
that
get
under
that.
any.
Right.
so when it,
But-
so 5AD, you can say that they're
Absolutely.
exceeding tire.
That's the same thing
traction.
with if they're blasting the music in their car,
Okay,
no matter if it's
Okay.
explicit
I got
or
that.
not, we can do that.
Right.
okay.
But 3D says stationary internal combustion. That's where I was tripping over. The lawn, the leaf blower.
So take out stationary.
Yeah, then it might make it more into a motor vehicle. I mean, you see, I think I understand what they were trying to do back in 88. I think they were trying to create categories of. If it was that far back, categories of types of noises. If you take out stationary, then
Right.
and the start into the exhaust of any steam engine, internal combustion engine.
So if you're gonna do yard work before or snow blowing before, it better be an electric engine.
Well, and here's the thing, we're still not, unless somebody complains.
No,
then-
I'm just saying, we're getting
Yeah.
a steam engine, internal
Right.
combustion engine, but
Right.
they're electric,
Right,
maybe just
right,
of any engine.
right. I mean, am I being too pedantic? I mean, I just saw stationary. People can say, well, this
Yeah.
isn't stationary. It's stationary to the equipment, but you're walking
Oh,
around
I
with
see what you're
it.
saying.
And so to,
Stationary versus vehicular, I think.
What if
Yeah.
we can just get rid of everything except engine?
Yeah.
The open air of the exhaust of any engine, motorboats or motor vehicle except through a muffler or other device.
yeah, that would be the,
Right.
that would be
So
the,
just get rid of all that
Well,
language,
that would be the engine subparagraph.
which would take care of lawn mowers, it would take care of leaf.
Well, that's what I meant by
blowers,
lawn,
Yeah.
lawn activity.
Chainsaws.
Chainsaws, all of that would
Right.
be covered, right?
May I, but I
Yeah,
get back to the point I made earlier. Do we want this, do we really want such a prohibition to apply to residents and taxpayers as opposed to commercial outfits? Do we want to make that distinction? Because I think at town meeting, what the point was made that you, and I think you affirmed
Yeah.
the comment that if, Joe Q Public, your next door neighbor wants to, bang away on his deck, building his deck on a Sunday morning and I next door complain, you can come in and
Yeah.
shut that down.
Yes. Yep. And we have got complaints that I've gone to for that, where somebody's done a tin roof on a Sunday and I've gone out and had to make
Yeah,
them
I think-
stop.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'm just raising the question. I mean, try to, because it'll come up again.
So the thing I think that I struggled with a lot of this is that we don't get many complaints on Sunday from people
Anyway.
doing work.
And they're not even here on Saturdays, a lot
Right,
of
lawn
them.
mowing and stuff like, we don't get those complaints. I mean, the ones I can think of was somebody running a jackhammer.
Yeah, that would do it.
Right, on a Sunday, and they were trying to break up the sidewalk to fix something, and we got a complaint for that.
Yeah,
We did get a complaint for like somebody banging on tin on a roof on a Sunday,
Yeah.
but.
I don't think people complain
It's
so
not that
much on a
often.
Saturday,
No.
right?
No,
mean,
I can't,
if your next door neighbor is working on his deck on a Saturday,
very rarely.
Or-
I actually know on a Saturday, I don't think
anyone
we've ever.
or
got a
using their
complaint
leaf
other than,
blower, mowing their lawn.
Like this Saturday.
I don't want to capture that.
Yeah, I don't think we get those though. I don't think we have to even. Worry
We
about
don't get
that.
those anyway.
No, because we're getting like this Saturday, we got a noise complaint, but it's at 10:30 at night. That's what we get on Saturdays is
Right, is it,
is the overnight noise, not during, I can't honestly think of one during the day.
Right.
Sundays and holidays, yes, we do. And then we definitely get the construction noise early in the morning, 100% get that. That's probably our biggest issue is that.
and it's gonna stay that way for a
Yeah.
while, I think.
And that's the hard part to do is because again, they have. We won't always get the call either. We'll get the call at 9 o'clock and
It's
it's
too
happening
late.
at 7:50. It's like, how do you address it at that? Call us please when it happens so we can address it. And I think we've gotten a lot better.
Yeah,
And I think the construction people have figured it out too, gotten
Yeah.
a lot better. So,
well, the point there is education too, right? Because
Absolutely.
they should still call
Absolutely.
even after the fact, because you can
Yes.
find out where and when,
correct. And we go have a conversation with
right?
them and they explain to them, this is your warning.
Or not even just say, hey, we got this,
Yep.
there's no noise now,
Correct.
but you have it in the record that you can go,
Absolutely,
oh yeah,
yeah.
these guys, they're, you know.
Yeah, if they become an issue, then they get a summons.
Yeah.
There's no ifs or buts about it.
So we wanna, do we wanna treat Sundays for private? For owners, I mean, people mow their lawns on Sundays.
I mean, no, I don't think anybody's, I wouldn't worry about that. People aren't gonna complain about
I
something.
don't think that constitutes construction either. I think that's just.
Well, no, this is outside construction.
Right,
With the way we changed
but I don't know, so
3D.
then that would be my question though, and should we change it though, because. Right now, nobody's complaining about it, so if we add language to it that then would interpret that we don't want it to happen, then we may get complaints for the lawnmower on Sunday.
Well, you know, actually, this is overnight too. That's not the fix.
I think we should just make the change that we already talked about.
Yeah.
Forget about D.
Yeah. We can approach G next year, next town meeting, if we wanna.
Yeah, actually, 3 deals with the overnight. It
Yeah,
does, it's
mostly
not
construction
talking
or
about,
anything. Yeah. That's what I was just looking at.
well, we did, okay, this could come up at town meeting though.
Yeah,
It could.
good.
Someone could, I think we should maybe have something in our back pocket is how we would like to address it if someone wants to do
I
away
think if
with.
somebody brings it up, just getting rid of steam engine stationary internal combustion.
Yeah.
But that's at night,
fixes-
that's at
Nope.
night,
That's at night
right?
and just leave it like that.
Well, no, people are complaining about commercial lawn. Commercial landscaping on Sundays.
Just gonna say,
holidays.
somebody did.
But you can't differentiate between,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can't
that's
have
gonna be
a
tricky.
property,
Yeah,
a single family home here with a guy using a leaf blower, and then a condo association right next door where they're not allowed to do
Yeah.
it.
I think that'd be
I mean,
tricky.
that's gonna
Slippery slope, yeah.
really be a slippery
Yeah,
slope.
no, I'm not, again, I'm
Yeah.
just raising the issue that was, just bringing forth the issue that was raised
They
to
did
us
say that, yeah. But they
about,
said they hear it out every day of the week and it's nice to have a break, not on the weekend, listening to the people out leaf blowing and.
Well, I don't think you're gonna see anybody commercially doing it
I don't
on
think so
Sundays.
either.
I struggle to see any of it. I mean, I look at Dana White,
Mhm.
who's been here for how long? These guys, they need some time off.
They go
Yeah.
home.
Right, they
Yeah.
need breaks on the weekends, here,
Yeah.
just like the rest of us,
Okay.
so.
He
Yeah.
laughed when we talked about working on crushing stones on Saturday and Sunday. We talked to him, but he laughed out loud. He goes, I'm not gonna be here on Saturday and Sunday doing
Mhm.
that.
But if we can, I think in a special town meeting, if we can also do something from. Like maybe even a spiel from our standpoint, Rich, and I think you got a good point, is what we can enforce, what we can't enforce and how to go about it, because. When people complain and I don't want them to feel like we can't, we're not doing anything or can't do anything about it. Cause that's their right as a resident and we respect that 100% and wanna help them in any way we can. They're the residents here, but. I don't know how we maybe have that conversation too, education wise on. Even more in depth on what we can do, what's the best way to. To get. a
No,
hold of
I think
this.
we need to set this
Yeah.
up. I mean, at the meeting, before we actually have the vote, I think we need to.
Right.
Explain everything to everybody. That was part of the problem, I think, with the
Yeah.
vote that occurred
I agree.
at town meeting.
So after federal holidays and Sundays, otherwise leave it exactly the way it is.
I think so.
And that's the starting point for the discussion.
I think so.
Sounds good to me.
And so that's 3-0, recommend approval
Yep.
of this.
Do you need us to
Yep.
stay and sign that, or we can?
No, I'll
Make
get
that.
it together and send you an email when it's ready. And I'll fill in the dates on the posting. We're gonna change this to elementary school gymnasium and 6 PM.
Okay.
Okay,
So moved.
there you go. Good, thank you. I'm good with that.
I'm good with it too. We'll see if the town is good with it.
Yep.
And what happens?
And what
I think
happens?
it will be.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. And I will make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
We missed one. of
Thank you,
the
Patrick.
Ordinances, do you want to
Thanks,
sign this?
Oh, there's one more to sign. That's right.
Yeah.
One other to sign.
The 20.
And